Hi, everybody. My name's Gabriel Ventura. I am Mr. Texas Esquire in 2020, and I have Lydia here with me today. Hi, Lydia. How are you?
Good. Hi.
Hi. It's so good to see you. You look so great.
It's good to see you too.
It's been a good hot minute, and we were just talking a minute ago, and I love that you're outside also because it really gives this vibrancy to it, and it feels like really great. I love that a lot. So we were talking about that for the Mr. United States and Mr. United States Esquire, we're doing What the Health Week. And I know that you are a licensed therapist, and I thought it'd be interesting to get your insight on a few things going on right now for people with, COVID-19 and ways to probably cope. Um, how are you feeling with everything going on right now?
I feel pretty good today, but I think that it is a day by day basis.
No, I definitely agree. Well, I think we were saying it earlier. It's a roller coaster of emotions.
Yes.
I think we caught each other, or at least you caught me, and I got you on a good hour because I feel like I did my hair. I feel a little like put together for sure.
Exactly. I have clothes on. I have makeup on. My hair's done.
I told myself I needed to make sure I freshened up a little bit, which is something very interesting I was thinking about because for me myself, but when we first met, I was in a place that wasn't, I was trying to grab my feet in a recovery community. And I remember being so embraced, with things. And I was actually looking at Facebook, and the sober prom was like last year,
Yes.
and which my crown is right over there for
Good.
ambassador. Um, and for Dragoween, and I love that it creates. Austin RoundUp is an amazing nonprofit that creates a great fellowship together. And right now, for a lot of people, it's kind of difficult not having that what we would call it fellowship, right? Like that
Right.
connectivity. Um, what are some things that you feel like people can do to still feel connected to one another during times like this?
Okay. So one of the things that I suggest is looking to stay in contact via like text or phone call, especially people you're not seeing necessarily on social media, because they may be more of your introverts. They may not be as prone to just put themselves out there. And so I think one of the getting out of yourself is a huge basic principle that we learn in recovery. And so when we're not in a good place, sometimes it's calling and checking on somebody else that helps us actually lift our spirits, but then also lift their spirits as well. So that's definitely one of the things that I suggest people do.
Yeah, and it's really humbling because what I always appreciate is, when people say you want to give the gifts to the next person,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't recall if I had mentioned this with you or not, but it was it's so easy to be able to get what you want out of changing your life and then suddenly feel like you're okay. Um,
Right.
so there's a lot of like exercises or tools that people probably need to, you know, do or in order to still feel complete. So with a lot of different things going on with mental health state and people in isolation, I know it can be very tough with people in recovery as well. You did mention different forms of reaching out. I love that you also brought up about introverts maybe not being as out there on social media. It definitely makes sense with how their personalities are, and
Mm-hmm.
to be aware of people's habits and things of that nature. Um, as far as anything goes, what are some ways aside from like reaching out to people that may be able to help people from isolating or maybe just like sitting in that isolated feeling or that fear?
Right. I think that this is a high time for people to start feeling lonely, start feeling depressed,
Yeah.
start feeling trapped. And so I think to overcome those, like creating a routine for yourself is really important. Um, like it's almost like this idea of creating a new norm for right now. Like, what is your new normal right now? So like creating a routine, being able to like set some goals. Like I made a list of all the stuff that I keep saying I don't have time to do.
Yeah.
Right? I don't have time. I should do this, but I don't have time.
Yeah.
And so I'm slowly working down that list of what I don't have time to do, right? Because it's like sometimes it is about like I need to be busy so that I'm not up in my head creating more crisis.
Yeah. One thing that you mentioned about routine, and it's very funny you say that, because what I love about, as we converse, so much comes to my mind that I didn't even think about beforehand is, with routine, there's a lot. I used to hate the word consistency because I think because at work, like when with different jobs, it's like, you need to be consistent. And I'm like, well, I'm consistently good or consistently bad, It's one or the other. But like that's true, that consistency really helps to, I think accountability is a big thing that we learn about. And
Yes.
and with that, it helps you with the new normal, like for me, myself, I think earlier I was talking about like, oh, I did my hair, I feel different. And it gives me that feeling of like already working from home and then now knowing that I really don't have to like put myself together as much. I know that I feel better about myself when I'm taking care of myself physically.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and eating right, trying to exercise, because when people tend to stay in that isolation or depression, we watch ourselves physically deteriorate in ways. And I really love that you said routine, because we want to make sure we feed our mind, body, souls, and things of that nature. You did bring up about the list of what I don't have time for, and the good thing about that is that you're finding a way to utilize the time. A lot of people feel
being
like
productive.
Yeah, exactly. What are some personal goals maybe for you, or that maybe for other people that you think would be things that might be worth trying out if they want to try to utilize the time for self-improvement or self-care or learning something different?
So learning something new. YouTube is the most awesome thing in the world. You want to learn how to do something new? YouTube it, right? So I have like one client who's teaching himself how to play the guitar right now.
Oh, wow.
So he bought a guitar and he's teaching himself how to play. So it's like using the opportunity to do something new. I've got another female client who really never learned how to cook. And so she's been like learning to cook. And so it's like, sometimes it's being able to channel that energy somewhere where we feel productive, because I do think a basic human need is we need to feel like we have value and we have worth. And for some people, they may or may not have been able to work from home.
Yeah.
And it's like, if they're not able to work from home, then what are they doing to feel like their life has purpose and that they're not just sitting around waiting? I think the thing that I would get people to really understand is that in this predicament that we're in right now, we're kind of going through a grieving stage, right? Like there's 5 stages of grief. And so this lifestyle where we are right now, it is a grieving process. Like we've had to let go of things. Like I finally started going to the gym. What happens? The gym's closed. Right? And so it's things like that we don't think are a big deal, but when they start piling up on, now I can't go to the movies, now I can't go to meetings, now I can't do, right? And that I can't message starts really weighing heavy. And there is a real grieving process with what's going on. And I think that people need to be gentle with themselves and recognize that is what's going on. And not to necessarily sit in it, but to also like acknowledge it, that I feel sad or I feel resentful that I can't just go do what I want to do. I miss that.
Yeah. I never thought of it that way, which is great because, and that's why I really appreciate you, you know, taking some time to talk about this is, I didn't think about it that way. And, you know, there's, with everyone needing value, and I think sometimes, you know, at least, you know, for some people, they tend to identify so much with what they do for work as their value. And, you know, yeah, there's funny memes about essential or non-essential and things like that. But when we put all our value in one thing, it kind of, and it suddenly is gone, you know, whether it be, you know, you're not able to work or you're having issues or you're dealing with all the kids at home, your identity suddenly changes and you have to kind of advance or, you know, come through that. What is something that may be good for people to realize that they're more than just one thing? Like for me, when I first started, you know, when I had to go through my fourth step, we talk about, you know, different things. We talk about character defects and, you know, trying to make them into character assets. And for me, I used to put a lot of value or worth on certain things, and I tried to learn how to make them into assets. What is something that you could probably recommend for people to realize that they can identify themselves as something greater than just one thing, like their job or things like that, if they're not working right now or they're stuck with kids or whatever the case may be?
So I think the first thing that I think of when you say that is recognize that your gifts and your talents are your gifts and your talents. The job is just what you're doing, right? So be creative. Like, what else can you do with these gifts and these talents?
I love that because and I apologize, I keep saying I just, you know, as we talk, I'm thinking how it's hitting me because even us here at home, me and my partner, you know, having this interaction with you or having different interactions with people, it brings out different sides of you, which I really love this because I feel like I feel so cheesy on how I'm smiling because that interconnection is great. You know, we were saying earlier how you know, we're huggers and we want to go and hug people and want to see people. And I love that, like, you phrased it in a way that, like, your gifts and talents are your gifts and talents, and how you did that, because I used to think, like, for myself, like, I don't know what my skills are, or I think that I could only be limited to one thing. And this is a great time for a lot of people to, you know, work on self-improvement, you know, the guitar, cooking, reading different types of books, things like that. Sometimes some people, you know, they may feel a little helpless on what can I do as an individual or my part in the world, and they tend to feel like crumbled underneath that. I know a lot of slogans are like stay home, stay safe. If somebody feels like they want to do something more or volunteer or whatever, what are different ways that maybe they could do that or be of service or so to other people?
So one of the things that I did is I'm not super involved in my neighborhood, right? Like we've only been here about a year. I know a couple of neighbors, but not really. Well, it turns out we had a Facebook page. Go figure. So I got on the Facebook page, and what that's done for me is it's connected me to my actual neighbors and what their needs are. And what I'm seeing is things like, hey, I got into HEB, they had milk, I grabbed 2 gallons, I only need 1 who needs milk. And so it's done good for my spirit to see that, okay, people genuinely do care about each other, right? But then it's also allowed me to be available to my neighbors, you know, and be willing to, like, hey, I'm going to go to Walgreens. Does anybody need anything? And minimizing those trips out. I've offered a couple of times to sit with people's kids so they could go to the store and not have to take their kids.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You know, and so, you know, yes, there's probably some risk in that, but it's probably less risk than if I'm out running the street somewhere, you know? So, I mean, I think each person has to figure out, like, what they can do. But I think, you know, part of that is, like taking care of and watching for each other. It's kind of like, I think sometimes we are so focused on being being independent that we can be very selfish. And when you're interdependent, that means that you're making sure everybody around you is okay. Right? Like, I'm going to make sure that the friends that I know that are hairdressers that are not making much money, like, do you need food?
Yeah.
You know, how about if I pay you in advance for my hair?
Yeah.
Right? Like, there's ways we can be of service and help some of those that are struggling more to feel more at ease. And I think that those are the things that we have to be creative about. You know, how do we, I love that Will, who's, you know, one of the choreographers for Dragon,
Yeah.
I love that he's doing online dance classes because he's able to pull in a little bit of money, and then I get to enjoy that. I get to have some exercise, you know? And so people are getting more creative about how can I continue to do my talent, my gift, my trade, and still make, you know, a little bit of money to be able to get by. But yeah, I think it's hard to be of service, especially, you know, in recovery, we're so service oriented. Like, we're taught, you know, in early sobriety, you know, that it's important to be of service to others. And I think sometimes people do feel lost right now. You're like, they're like, well, I don't know how to be of service.
Yeah. I was thinking too, like a while back, and, you know, some friends were like saying, how about this? How about that? And sometimes for some people, you still have to, you know, they're a little afraid to get out of their comfort zone when it comes to helping others in certain or different scenarios. I really love the tips because, like, a lot of people don't realize that they have like Facebook neighborhood pages. And it's almost like that phrase, it's like, it takes a village to take care of everyone. And it's reaffirming to see the kindness of strangers to others because, you know, yes, we're all going through different ways of handling it. For sure, you know, me comparing my way of handling is definitely different than, you know, other people as well. And I need to remember not to compare my situation with someone else, because I don't want to get sad, or I don't want to feel not happy. You know, I don't want to feel like bad in a way that, like, I sound ungrateful, because I am very grateful for the way that I'm able to handle what's going on right now. And that's what I'm thankful for about is gratitude as well. And then, like you were saying, with the hairdressers and checking in on food and being there for the neighbors as well and the kids, you know, it's definitely a heavy burden with a lot of people having their kids at home, finding ways to entertain them, and a lot of ways of utilizing your talents as well. I know, what was it? When someone we know also from Dragon was doing masks for students, I believe. And it was just like, there's so many people who are finding different ways to still give back and do things for other people. And that's one thing I love, is because it really puts a lot of hope in humanity. You know what I mean?
Right, because I think it's very stressful right now. One of the other things I suggest with people is limit how much time you actually listen and watch the news.
Oh, yeah.
Because it really can kind of traumatize you, right? There's a lot of controversy. Some people will say one thing and then it seems like a contradiction is right behind it, and then that creates confusion. I know for me, that sets off that panic in me, because then I'm like, well, what's the truth?
Yeah.
And so, like, I have to limit how much I listen. I listen enough to kind of know what the latest information is, but then I no longer am like reading everything I can get a hold of or listening to every channel, because it's like you'll drive yourself crazy, and you will keep yourself in that hypersensitive mode of survival.
Yeah, it reminds me very much of, what is it, fight or flight? Like, a lot of people feel very like, and that I know from just knowing different people doing and dealing with different ways, it can be a lot more stressful. There's I've seen on the news about a lot of people struggling right now, being socially and physically alone. If there's something, or you feel that there's people struggling with things like that, what are some tips, if that's going to be the right word to use, on how they can reach out to other people, you know, or maybe hotline or things like that? What are some things that they feel like they're, you know, feeling overwhelmed?
Well, I think most therapists are available on telehealth at this point, right? So like I think I posted the other day on Facebook. Remember, help helps.
Yeah.
Right. And it's because I think sometimes we start feeling alone and we forget that people are out there. But the truth is that like there are people out there who care, who understand, that, you know, will be a good ear to listen to, you know. And so I think not buying into the darkness, you know, and realizing, you know, that, okay, there is a lot of things we don't know. There is a lot of things that feel out of control at times. But ultimately, looking for those things that like you can be grateful for today, right? Like right now in the moment, you know, basic thing we learn in recovery is to stay in the present, right? If you're in the past or in the future, you're probably creating unnecessary stress, and that's probably more true today than any time I can remember in sobriety. That I still have to practice that today. Today I am safe. I am happy. I've got my family. I've got food. I got a roof over my head. Like I'm good.
That's I love how it's it always feels so honest, you know, if that makes sense, to be able to look at, you know, taking away all the extra like craziness in the world and just like where you put your core values at, and like being able to be grateful. I know I remember people would tell me, you know, hey, make a list of things that you're grateful for, or try to like give yourself a few things to realize. And when I had went to counseling a few years back, you know, my therapist said the same thing. And what people also sometimes don't realize is, you know, there are, you know, home, food, you know, things taken care of, family, friends, partners. But also me, I tend to be an optimist person. So I try to, you know, I try to also look for the most simplest things, like just those little bits of gratitude are, I appreciate that very much as well. I did want to ask how I know you're a great cook also. I remember the Halloween head with the little pinhead. Are you creating any new recipes while in quarantine?
I'm not. I'm doing a lot of cooking, mostly baking. And my big joke right now is the quarantine 15. Yes. Because that is one of the things I enjoy cooking. It's very therapeutic for me. And I enjoy eating it. so yeah, so you know, I'm trying to limit myself to once a week. Like I baked chocolate chip cookies this week.
Oh my goodness.
But you know, I enjoy cooking, and so you know, I'm trying to, you know, just kind of keep it a little bit at bay, remembering that there's only 3 of us in my household eating it.
You can send some cookies this way.
I know. I'm just like, okay, who wants cookies?
You'll be the cookie lady in the neighborhood.
Yes. Well, what's really cool is one of the guys has a food truck.
Oh, really?
Food truck, and he'll open it up on Friday nights here in the neighborhood. And so that's been cool. Yeah. So it's like, oh, we got our own food truck.
That's great. Yeah. I mean, it's for sure is something that like, I'm sure it brings everyone together, and you kind of, even though you're still practicing that like social distancing, you still get to have that interaction. And it's funny that you say, well, not funny. It's great that you say about the Facebook page, because we tend to not really, you know, we're so busy. We just go through our day, not really realizing the people around us. And to be able to have time to actually stop and be like, hey, that's John, or hey, that's Mary, and like being able to, you know, drive down the road and acknowledge them, and it builds that connection, you know, so that's great.
There's also an app called Nextdoor, and that's another one too. You can literally put in your zip code, and it'll bring in like who's in your actual area. Oh. So if you live in an apartment complex, or, you know, something like that, where maybe it's not like a housing development that has its own Facebook page, the Nextdoor app may be something else that you can use to tap into that.
Yeah, that's good. That's good to know also because I tend to like we live in our building. There's so many different people you see. We'll still see people like riding their bikes and exercising, and I'll see people jogging by, and I want to be like, "Hey, can I run kind of near you?" You know?
6 feet apart.
Yeah, like, let's all just like exercise yoga mats in the area, you know, like in the
Yeah.
common area. What I did want to ask also is I forget. I know that you're on the board of Austin Roundup, and we were talking about this before. So I wanted to, kind of touch base on some of that. You were saying there's some things that are being rescheduled coming up, or stuff.
Yes, the Austin Roundup is usually over the July 4th weekend, and since we're still not 100% sure where we're going to be at that time, we postponed it. So the good news is we didn't cancel it, which is a lot of things are getting canceled. So that's the good news. Instead, we have negotiated with the hotel to do it over Halloween weekend, which actually might be a blast.
Do you think maybe we can get some out, like we can kind of dress that for some reason?
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure they're going to be. I'm sure there's going to be lots of dressing up.
We got lots of queens ready for it.
Yes. I'm sure we're going to have a party of some kind.
So that's great to know because it's one of the things we were talking about was fellowship and getting together, and I think it gives people things to look forward to. Still setting goals on things that are coming to be excited about, or finding things to be able to work towards still. So that's what was it? I know that there's a lot of other different things. Also, there's Dragoween. I know you said that we're trying to figure out how that's going to work. If anyone wants information, they can always go to, what is it, www.austinroundup.org?
Yes.
Is it org? Okay, cool. I always forget the last part of it. You think I would know you're going to fire me as an ambassador.
Have you talked about what Austin Roundup is?
Oh, actually, no. Well, yeah, I might. Well, if you don't mind actually talking about it, because I know some people on my Facebook page that I have talked about it before, but since I haven't brought it up in this video, if you don't mind bringing it up, that actually be.
Yeah. So yes. So Austin Roundup is a nonprofit that puts together a 3-day conference for people in recovery. So it's not affiliated with any specific like AA and ACA, but it is people in recovery. And so there's different workshops that people can attend. There's all kinds of social events and great speakers. And it's really a fellowship to strengthen people's recovery and to strengthen what we call the fellowship or the family connection of recovery. And so it's been, I'm not sure how long that it's been going here in Austin, but it's been going for a while, 20 something years, I think.
Yeah, I think I remember. I think I remember because I usually I had that lanyard, but I keep it in a box with all my little memories. Yeah. I think I want to say it was 25th or 30th. I don't know, somewhere in there, but I can't really think off the top of my head. But I want to say thank you so much, by the way, for taking some time. I hope I didn't ramble on too much.
No, this is great. I appreciate you calling me.
I also want to say if you did mention if people, there's telehealth, things like that. I can always post in the comments hotlines for people as well. And some of these tips kind of summarize it. And as far as anything goes, what do you have any goals? As far as I guess when we can go back out and about, are you anything that you look forward to?
I'm gonna have a party. I just want to see my friends, right?
Yeah.
I just want to have a party. I want to see my friends. I want to cook. I want to be able to play Cards Against Humanity or whatever crazy kind of game. But yeah, I just want to be able to see my friends and enjoy, each other again in a way that is more personal than this disconnection.
Yeah, it's what is it? People say it's social distancing, but you don't have to be disconnected or something.
Yes, and I think that's hard for a lot of people. You know, it's like connection is I think it's hard when people first get sober to even trust the connection, right? Like, what do you want from me? Kind of.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you start realizing, oh, these people really care about me. What?
Yeah.
And then it just becomes part of your food.
Yeah. It's which was the community Facebook you're talking about. Like you kind of think to yourself, like, what does this person want? They're asking who needs extra milk. Like what do I need to give you for it? But it's reassuring to know that, you know, just like in recovery, there's people in the world that
Right.
have their best interest for you and love for you and your back as well, you know?
Absolutely. And, you know, I, you know, primarily, I mean, that's all I do is addiction. So I work with people, you know, just getting sober. And believe it or not, I have a guy who's 5 days sober, who's getting sober on Zoom meetings. God bless him. More power to him. I think it's awesome. But, you know, I think that regardless, even, you know, someone like myself who's been sober for 30 years, like I still miss the actual being a part of.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's like you get used to that connection.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my big thing that I accomplished so far is I have a website now.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah. What is your website?
It is addictionspecialistofaustin.com.
All right. Well, we'll be sure to post
So
that down
there.
there. I'll post it down there.
There's pictures of Athea.
Yes, I was going to ask you because you did an interview for the what was it? Was it CBS with the
Yes, for the pig pageant.
the pig? Did she win?
No, she didn't even place, but that's okay. I know more for next year. I know now.
We got practice. Yeah, it's
I know what to expect. Yeah, I think she was out here, but I think she went in the house. But yes.
Well, I want to say thank you for spending some time with me and sharing your love and your wisdom. And you look gorgeous, and I'm so happy to get to spend time with you right now. And I feel like I just want to like give like this hug, like
I know.
to the computer.
Yes.
You were just such a sweetheart, and I appreciate it. And thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I hope you try to have a great rest of your day. And I hope that everyone else is able to take something away from this to help them get through what's going on.
You too, and good luck.
Thank you. Texas.
I'm rooting for you.
Thank you.
Right. Bye.